It's another Monday. It's time for another Roll to Roll. I'm Benj,
I'm Chase.
I'm Dave.
and we're still talking races. And today we're talking one of my personal favorites. As much as I don't like elves, I really like half elves. And the kicker is, I didn't used to. Like, they weren't anything special in second or third edition. They were basically humans that could see in the dark and didn't get feats. I don't know what they did in fourth. Did they do anything in fourth, Chase?
I am actually going to be honest. I don't remember. I don't think anyone ever played a
That's
half
how
elf.
memorable they were.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, well, what they've done in fifth edition that I really, really like, is they've given the half elf a place in the world. They always talked about in the handbook and the supplemental material that half elves didn't really have a place to live because the elves didn't really like them and humans thought they were weird and whatever, and they just didn't fit in, which is great for an adventurer and great for a role playing experience in a role playing game. It's super. But now they've changed them over to their diplomats. They belong to both their elven heritage and their human heritage, and they can bridge that gap, which is really, really great. So I want to talk about half elves for a second. I really like how they say that your half elf is named using a human name if they grew up with elves, and with an elvish name if they grew up with humans. Kind of like sticking them out there even further. Like, you don't actually belong. We're not going to even name you with our naming conventions, whatever. But the first thing right off the bat, they're totally busted because they get a +2 to their charisma, and then you can pick any other two ability scores and add 1 point to them. So already they're getting a bump of 4 instead of the usual bump of 3 points. They live a little bit longer. They're the same size and same speed as everybody else. They're medium. They do still get dark vision, which is super great. Again, stupid humans can't see in the dark, but half elves totally can. They get the same Fey ancestry that elves get, so they have advantage on their saving throws against being charms, and they also can't be magically put to sleep. Then they get a bonus 2 skill proficiencies, which is awesome. Again, we talked about how
Awesome.
important that was. Then they can speak, read, write Common, Elvish, and one other language. So they get 2 bonus skills and a bonus language. They're amazing. Talk to me, Chase.
I mean, this is going to come as literally no surprise to anyone that this is actually probably my favorite race. I would even say I probably love half elves more than elves. Even more so in this edition because, like Benj was saying, this is the edition where, well, they've pretty much made half elf awesome. There is no reason not to pick the race. If you're doing any charisma based class, I mean, there's a freebie. You get that +2. Hey, awesome. If you were doing any other class, you can still get a +1 to any scores you need.
Exactly.
Well, they can just do in the okay. I'm gonna have to go on the fanboy boat for a minute. Sorry, everybody. They can literally do anything. Okay, they can do anything, and the best part is they can do anything well. Like the,
Like
and
almost
even
to the
from a
point
role
where
playing side,
as as much as the book kind of touts the humans as being the catch-all, they can do whatever they want. I feel like honestly the half elves do that better than the humans do.
yeah.
Like that they can do whatever they want, but they can do it better than humans because they can see in the dark, and that's honestly kind of a big deal. But also the humans getting the +1 to everything isn't really that useful because there's so many stats each class doesn't use, and the elves are a little bit more focused. And Fey Ancestry is really cool. Getting 2 extra skills is amazing, and getting an extra language is really useful too. And then the charisma in 2 of your choice means if you want to play Bard, Warlock, Sorcerer, you can go ahead and bump up your Dex and Con, and be harder to hurt and harder to kill. And the charisma also comes in handy with other classes, like if you want to play a rogue and talk to people, or really play anyone and talk to people. But yeah,
Well,
I feel like they emphasize the versatility way better than humans do.
and I
To
was gonna
me, at
go
least.
with what you said, Dave, about how the comment you made about how everyone considers the humans the catch-all.
Uh huh.
I mean, half elves even from a lore and like world standpoint, they're the catch-all +1. Like,
Yeah.
you're still human. You're pretty much still human in every way, but here's some elf bonuses too. Like, that's what
Yeah.
it pretty much is. Like, you
Well,
are the catch-all +1.
It's like Ben said, the half-elves raised among humans get elven names, and the raised among elves take human names. I think that's a cool little bit of lore they stuck in there, because like Ben says, it just means that neither side wants to claim them. Your human parents don't really want you because you're not human. You're some sort of an elf thing. And the elves don't want you because you're just going to die in like 200 years and not live 700 years like the rest of them are. So they don't really want to know you. That makes them a great race to play like an outsider character, because they're like the outsider's outsider.
Yeah, I just, from a number standpoint, I mean, because I'm the numbers guy, you can play anything, and everybody will like you. Like, you could take a half elf and make a barbarian because you could put your 2 extra points in your strength or your constitution, and then, oh look, your intimidate actually works.
Yeah.
Right.
Because most people who play barbarians use their charisma and their intelligence as dump stat. Well, all 3 of them really. Charisma, intelligence, and wisdom. All of their mental attributes they use as dump stats because I'm going to hit something with my axe.
You don't need a working brain to be a barbarian.
But now I can yell and be angry about it, and they'll believe me because I've got a bonus to my charisma. And I don't have to put more points in it, but I'm going to be just a little bit better than that human over there.
Right.
I'm actually playing a half-elf in our current game as a bard, and I was originally going to make it a halfling, but my stats didn't roll really well, and half-elf made my stats better than halfling. And I hate to admit that, but that's literally why I'm playing a half-elf, because the stats are better. And I really wanted to be lucky and small, but instead I was just better at everything that I do and got a bunch of skills. That character is actually super busted because I also took the Sage background and got 2 more skills. So I started the game with 7 skills, and then I went Lore Bard, so I got 3 more skills. So I can do all the things.
As the DM
But
of
we'll
that
talk about
campaign,
that.
I can vouch for that. He has done all the things. He
He's
wasted an
amazing.
entire creation. He wasted an entire 2 hours of my day making an NPC that he flat out drowned in the ocean. But again, that's a
I
conversation
apologize
for
for
another
that before I did it. I apologized for that before I did it, and I apologized for that after I did it because I knew it was going to hurt your feelings. And now that I think about it, I'm not really sorry that I did it. I was sorry that you wasted your time. I wasn't sorry that I murdered that guy with the ocean. Suffice
Anyway,
to say,
half-elves.
half-elves are really good because bards can murder people with oceans.
day. Yeah, it's a thing.
I don't have a whole lot else to say. I mean, if we were going to do the what are they good at and what are they not good at, one of those conversations is going to take a long time, and the other
Because
conversation
they're good at
is
everything.
not. They're good at all the things, and they're bad at none of the things.
I'm actually
yeah,
just trying to think of something bad. Get back to me on that.
Yeah. I mean, let's run through it. Barbarian, now I can intimidate, and I still get a little bump to the things I like. Bard, I don't have to talk about
Hello.
it because I just did. Cleric, charisma, wisdom, constitution, good deal. Druid, charisma, wisdom, constitution, next. I mean,
Yeah, fighter's still
the list-
good because you can do like a dex or strength build. Then monk, same
Exactly.
thing. Paladin.
And you can't really do the same thing we do with elves and say, well, what doesn't fit with them, because they would fit with anything.
Well, that's the
based
thing
upon
about
where they were
half-elves.
raised. Like,
They're specifically half-elves are specifically designed to do whatever, and they're amazing. And what we need to do is come up with reasons to not play half-elf, so you don't have an entire party of half-elves, because they're the unknowns.
Man, I'm even
They're
trying
the
to think of
opposite
like
of gnomes.
Yeah, I'm even trying from like a lore perspective, like an RP
That's so
perspective
sad
of
for
what fit.
for gnomes. The only way I can think of that you wouldn't want to play a half elf is either you just absolutely hate them, which is understandable because people are people and they like what they like and they don't like what they don't like. Or if your DM is just like, nope, elves and humans never had babies together. It didn't happen. There's no half elves here.
Well, I mean, the reason you don't play a half elf is because you're scared of the world.
Yeah.
If the world that you're playing in is super racist against half elves because they're half breeds, and we can talk about this again in the next video when we talk about half orcs because they're the same thing.
But usually on the negative end of that spectrum, right? Normally hated on a lot more.
Yeah, like they're definitely hated on a lot more because people hate orcs a lot more than they hate elves.
Yeah.
I
think I have
half.
one...
It's easy to see where you get a half elf from because elves are sexy and humans are weak. And really, I mean, that's pretty. Yeah, half elves are easy to make, like easy to make. Half orcs not so much, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part. But realistically, like the only reason to not play a half elf or to make the player have a harder time playing a half elf is to make a world with a lot of racism, and that's really not hard to do. We live in a world that's not full of fantasy races, but we got all different shades of people, and there are racists everywhere. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm using that as an example. Whether when you're going up that spectrum, we got white people, we got black people, we got yellow people, we got red people, and a lot of them don't like each other. And
very true.
Now you think about your fantasy world where now you have humans and all those different colors of humans, but you also have dwarves and elves and halflings and gnomes and dragonborn. And come on, there's gonna be some ignorant people out there being racist. So I can see like humans and elves being racist against each other, and then half elves being in the middle with like super racism against them because they're not either one and they won't be accepted by either one. Not that I'm encouraging racism, but
no,
I kind of
all.
am. I'm kind of encouraging you as a dungeon master to ramp up the racism in your game. Just not because, I mean, it's a fantasy world, but there's going to be a little bit of reality in it. There are consequences for people's actions, and there are some people who don't like other people because they look funny.
At least if you're playing a role-playing heavy campaign where that matters. Of course, if you're playing
keep the racism safely in your imagination.
Right. Keep it in your imagination where it belongs. Don't bring it into the real world, but keep it there.
You leave that crap at the table. Don't bring that off the table, but it should be there. Otherwise, half-elves are great.
Yep, I agree.
So during the entirety of that rant, I went through every single
anything.
class.
You couldn't find anything.
I found one thing, but it's only from a role-playing standpoint, and only if you as a player can't stand being convoluted. And that was going with the dragon bloodline sorcerer, because then you're kind of a half-elf, half-human, quarter dragon. So that was as best as I got. That was me digging deep.
So what about from like the role-playing side of things? I know we touched on it, but how do you play your half-elf? Do you go for the like distrustful because that's the way the world sees him? Or do you try and play them up as being the diplomats and the ambassadors and trying to like mend bridges and being talky?
Ooh, this is gonna be complicated. So Benj, you have to go first because you're playing in my world right now. So
yeah, but right now we're only 3 or 4 sessions in, so we haven't run into a lot of the world, and the place where we were was like the most super accepting place in the world. And now that we've had this discussion, I cringe for our next session because you're going to like racism it up on me, which is, my persuasion is good enough that I will overcome. But I really like to play him as, a bridge. He doesn't see himself as an elf, and he doesn't see himself as a human. He sees himself as a person. So he feels like he fits anywhere. He does have the most white bread human name, so he may associate
Yeah, he does.
there a little bit more. But and I did that on purpose. I wanted the humanist name, like
Yeah.
not even remotely fantasy style name that I could give him. Um,
I want you to know we can never
And
say that name
but
because we're going to have a follower who has this name and we can't say it.
yeah.
no, we can't. It's fine because it's probably a name of a person. I bet I could Google my character name right now and like find 100 dudes within 100 miles of me
I can
with
about
that
guarantee
name,
it.
which is fine.
But anyway,
But yeah, I mean, he really he his background. He was in a place where he wasn't really mistreated, right? So, he had a job and he did his thing, and then he got a noble buddy that wanted to go adventuring, and he doesn't have a very high wisdom score, so he makes bad decisions. And now I'm on a boat, so
okay, I guess that brings it to me. All right, so again, before I say this, I want to put the roll to roll disclaimer of roll to roll does not support racism.
absolutely.
But in my world, homebrew world that both of these guys here, as well as many other my friends and coworkers and what else has played in, the main continent of said world is a pretty racist place, and half-elves are very low on the society bar. Most live in squander or out in the wilderness. A few are brought in, like our good buddy here, is essentially house hands. I think that's the right word for it, because slaves isn't right. That is not correct, because they're not slaves, but they serve noble families and do their thing, and half orcs are even worse. So when we get to that part, I'll have even more to say about that. But yeah, half elves, from a role playing standpoint at least, are generally either adventure-y and out in the wilderness, and they don't deal with society, and that's just kind of how they live their lives and choose the freedom of no one than the restraint of being kind of hated on by both sides, because that's kind of what they have to deal with when they get into society is let me rephrase, the main races of society, right? So the ones have been discussing thus far would have some issues with the half elf. So I always try to make sure when they role play in encounters and things like that they role play that as, if they're around humans, they kind of wait to see what the humans do. If they're around elves, they wait and see what the elves do. If they're around they're always pretty much the background. They are the character in the back and wait to be told what to do. Unless they were raised out in the wilderness, and then they just don't care. They just don't care. But anyway, that's getting deep into some stuff that I can't say too much about.
The small thing that I always try to remember, at least as far as half-elves and role-playing goes, and also it depends on the world you're playing in, but in most fantasy worlds, whereas you'll have the human kingdoms and empires and the elvish and the dwarven kings and empires, half-elves typically do not have an empire of their own because that's not how it works. If I remember correctly in most of the lore, half-elves having a kid will have either a full human or full elven kid. They won't have another half-elven kid. And they don't build kingdoms of their own. They're just a part of whatever kingdom they happen to be in. So you have to remember that even though they might have a home, they don't really have a home in the sense that, like, this human is from the human kingdom of
Blah.
wherever.
Yeah.
Or the elves are from the elvish kingdom of
Blah.
wherever that isn't copyrighted.
Blah. Copyright.
Elves don't
I like
have that. They're from the human kingdom of wherever, which may be a cool place and maybe not, but it's not really yours. And to equate it to real world, it'd be like being an American and moving to, England and transferring your citizenship, and that's your home now, but it's not your home. It's not where you're from. Just something important to remember, like, to try and maybe work into your elf of, you have a home, but you don't really have a home. And the few times I've played an elf, that's a half-elf, that's how I've tried to play them, as they're not really from anywhere. They don't understand or know where they're supposed to be in the world, and they're constantly trying to find it. But that's just my take on them.
And real quick, just to kind of go off that, I do want to add that, because a lot of what I just said was from a DM perspective. When I play a half-elf, I generally play them as the person who like seeks friendship, which is great for an adventuring party because when the adventure party starts, the Half-Elves pretty much like, wait, you guys are cool with me? You want me to come along and do what I do? I love you guys. Like that's essentially how I play my half-elves. Like they've spent so much time being hated on, they're just like, oh, I love you guys. I'll stick up for you. I'll protect you, baby. Mwah. But anyways, that's how I play my half-elves as compared to how I role play them in a world as a DM.
Right.
That reminds me, I'm going to need a really large and outrageous hat.
Uh huh. And that's even more of a story for another day.
I need no. Well, I think I'm just going to grow my hair longer and cover up my pointy ears and maybe get like the 5 o'clock shadow constantly. That way I can just pretend to be a human, and they'll believe me because my deception is off the hook.
Where if we're going this far with it, before we wrap this up, I just want you guys all to know, fans, that we have a website that we're working on, and when that website pops up, I'm debating on doing a campaign diary. If that's something you would like to see, let me know, because right now these characters are headed to a UNT island where nothing bad is going to happen at all. Nothing
I don't think
bad.
anything bad could happen. These people are our friends, right? Like, we're good buddies. I saved their lives and I gave them work.
But anyway,
Have we got anything else half-elf specific? Because this one's going a bit longer than we usually do.
yeah, sorry everybody.
I don't
It's
think
okay.
so. I
There's
think
lots of good things to
we've
say about
basically-
half-elves.
Yeah, we don't have anything bad to say about them, and we could probably keep saying good things about them long term. But on that note, we haven't said this in a while. We're not doing this for money or fame, or well, we'd like some fame, but we're not doing it for money. But it's only happening. We're trying to build a community. So since I haven't said it in a while, do the things you know you're supposed to do on the internet. Do your like and your subscribe and everything. And most importantly, tell your friends. And tell your friends to tell their friends. Because that's what viral means. But beyond that, this is the Half-Elf episode. I'm Benj.
I'm Chase.
I'm Dave.
And keep on rolling.